Some schools across the country are already welcoming students back to the classroom. There may not be enough teachers to greet them.
Districts nationwide are scrambling to find qualified teachers for every classroom. Some 51,000 teachers quit in May of this year, impacting kids and their families.
I am a first-year high school English teacher. This is definitely going to be my first and last year teaching. I was made very quickly aware of the fact that this is not the profession for me.
Do you honestly believe that these teachers are quitting their job 2 weeks into the school year because they're not getting paid enough, or because the politics that they're dealing with from outside of the classroom is too much to handle? No, that's not the reason. The reason why they're quitting is because these kids are mean and they're making the classroom a war zone, and they're getting zero support from parents at home and from admin on their campus.
I just counted and I have 15 days left in my teaching career. But I want to go on record that kids these days is not why I'm leaving. In fact, my students for the past 5 years, I have loved and been obsessed with, and not once were they the reason I thought I should quit. Lack of support for those students, or lack of pay for all the work and time I put in for those students, or even the push to do more for those students, even though I'm already giving everything I can. That's why I wanted to leave. It was never because of the kids. In fact, kids these days are all right. They're angels, they're perfect, they're gonna be just fine. So, anyone say kids are just too rough, that's why teachers are leaving? Mm-mm.
Mayor Fuller, can you hear us?
My name is Sarah Millett and I teach physics here at Newton South High School. I feel like it really came into my forefront September this past year, and this is the second contract negotiation that I've been through here, and I know we've been fighting for a contract since September of 2022. The word strike wasn't on my mind when it was my second year teaching. I think it's too because of the recent strikes that had gone on other districts, where it was like, okay, not just the school, not just this district, but we Massachusetts educators we're not putting up with this anymore. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thanks to you guys who did this before us.
Yeah. I'm Talia Gallagher. I teach 10th grade modern world history at Newton South High School. I wish people saw me as a professional. Mm-hmm. I wish people understood that I wear all these different hats, and that it's the combination of all those skills together is what makes me a professional at what I do. I think this push to deprofessionalize teaching, to control how teachers move about in their classrooms, is really disincentivizing to practicing teachers and to people who even have a thought of joining the profession.
Mm-hmm. We were angry, and we chanted shame to people. We were so upset at what we were being given and dealt with. Yeah, and so lots of feelings on both sides, but I think, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, something like
Grease.
that. Grease, yeah. So there are people that are going to make noise, and they're going to be the loud ones. But overall, I just talked to some of the deans today, and they were saying when we came back from strike, every single parent interaction that they had, all 4 deans with parents, was just I just wanted to let you know I was with you the whole time. We might have been silent, but we were there with you. And I think that kind of spoke volumes. The support came from us. We are the union. And I think that's what sometimes people forget. Oh, what did the union do? The union is your teachers. The union is the people that care for your kids. And then we got in terms of other unions, like we got monetary support from other unions, teachers unions throughout the state. The MTA, we got support from them. The Teamsters drove by with their truck. Like, we got so much support.
And have you thought about leaving teaching?
No.
I do feel like I have like a bit of a like cycle almost of like when I'm having like a day that's like particularly like down or troubling, you know, that's when it's like, oh, you know, like the mind begins to wander.
It'll kick you in the butt, yeah.
Yeah, but then with but then like immediately like clockwork, like I'll have an amazing student connection experience, or I'll have a really good lesson, or a student will write a really good essay, and that's like, this is why I do this.
I'm Tashnuba Shaheen, Tosh for short. I'm a PhD candidate here at Boston University in special education. Teacher pay has been strikingly stagnant for so long. To illustrate this point, from 1996 to 2021, the inflation-adjusted weekly wages increased for public school teachers by only $29. And that's, I can't even do the math right now. That's what, 30 years? Where if you were to look at the line, it's very much just a plateau, where teacher wages aren't increasing in the ways that they should be, especially thinking about rising costs for both college, cost of living, prices for everything. It's just, it doesn't match the rest of the ways in which prices are increasing.
I taught for 7 years. I taught elementary 5th grade for about half that time, and then the last half I taught middle school civics and history. We started the Facebook group so that we could help share with teachers that there are more options than just going back to the basics. That teachers have a lot of transferable skills that they can use to get other jobs in other environments that can pay the same or more. It just takes understanding the right processes and the right ways to apply to show that you have those skills that can be useful in other areas. And so that's why we started Life After Teaching. I think a lot of it is cultural. If you were to talk to teachers who have been teaching for like 40 years, and you can ask them, hey, how is it working with students? How is that different now than it was when you first started, and how the behaviors change? A lot of those teachers would say there's been definitely a cultural shift where teachers are supported by parents to the situation now where it's parent and student versus teacher. Like, kind of, there's been a cultural shift away from kind of the respect that teachers used to get. I think also there's the kids. I know a lot of people say kids don't change, but kids have changed. And in the last 5, 10, 15 years, asking kids to sit in a classroom for 8 hours a day and not have behavior issues. And it's a TikTok generation. Our attention spans are so much shorter than they used to be. I think that probably causes issues. I know the pandemic and COVID caused a lot of issues because everything was a hot mess. A lot of kids were told they're going to pass whether or not they do any work. So I think it's kind of a culmination of a lot of things. There was a school shooting at a high school in my school district. As a teacher, you kind of understand that school shootings happen and that you do a lot of drills and you practice for it. But I've never been so close to a school shooting before. I had a lot of students who had family members who were at that school. And I remember that day they called a code red lockdown, which at school means there is an active threat of some kind. And all the kids in my class started crying because they all thought there was going to be a shooting. And so I had to manage my own emotions. I had to manage the kids' emotions. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm not getting paid very much. I'm working so hard. And I'm scared. The kids in my classroom are scared. Why don't I go do something else that I can enjoy and get paid more? And so after that year, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. So I left.
The stature of teaching has also just been declining overall, where the prestige is not as prominent as it once was. And so it's I think overall it has become a less of an attractive option when it comes to workforce options. It's kind of like a roller coaster, so in this you see a decline in, again, the teacher prestige, the respect for the profession in the 70s and 80s. You see it kind of dip back up in the 90s, but then you see it again take a sharp downward turn, especially post-recession. Again, just because of the number of other job opportunities that people had outside of teaching, and the return on investment, spending so much money for a degree, only to make half as much as that, also was a contributing factor. And it's also striking how long a teacher stays in the profession compared to how long a teacher used to stay. So on average, a teacher will stay for 3 years compared to a teacher staying on average for 20 years, just 20 years ago. And again, it's because college costs are rising, but the salary doesn't match the investment that you're putting into becoming a teacher. And then COVID, I think, was a real big disruptive factor, where remote work has become a lot more attractive to people, and where you don't have to deal with the poor working conditions that a lot of teachers face in school. I think, though, the broader framework that nationally we can adopt is thinking about the constellation of support that can be provided to students, with not just thinking about the gen ed teacher, not just thinking about the special ed teacher, but thinking about like all the staff and how interdependent their roles are to be able to serve the students.